Right, it's the top of the hour. I guess we'll kick this off, let people join as they come through. Welcome everyone to today's DataShed webinar. The topic for today is dsCONNECT. dsCONNECT is a standalone application that pulls data directly from the DataShed NDS and stores it in a local SQL Express database on a shared server or on a user's computer. Today, we are going to run through the requirements, installation, the configurations that are required, and a quick demo on the utilization of the dsCONNECT data repository. First of all, there are four requirements for dsCONNECT. What I'm running through here is the dsCONNECT installation guide, which can be found on the maxgeo knowledge base underneath the MXAPI section. The requirements, the first requirement is that we must have an MXAPI license. We must have DataShed5 version 3.2 or newer. And then to install and to run dsCONNECT, we must have a SQL Server Express, and we must have the ODBC driver 18 for SQL Server. That's the ODBC driver that the dsCONNECT application uses to communicate to the SQL Express database. First of all, I'll just run you through a quick reminder on how we can get the MXAPI license. Firstly, in DataShed admin, bring up the user account that you want to assign the role to. They must have this MXAPI role. If the user does not have it, click on plus role, scroll down, select the MXAPI role, and hit save. In this case, I've already got it assigned to myself. The next step is you go into databases, click on the licensing icon, and on the MXAPI record, click on the person icon and add the user in and click save. I've already got the license assigned to me. Just as a refresher, while we're in here, to rotate the API key, you can click on this license in DataShed admin. That will prompt you, are you sure you want to rotate this license? If you say yes, it will rotate the license. The old license will be redundant immediately, and the new license will be up on the screen where you can cut and paste it and save it into a text file. In this case, the DataShed5 administrator would then have to send the API key off to the user. Users can rotate the key themselves from within DataShed5. They go to the Hello User menu, click on External Connections, and then this top row up here, the MXAPI key, they can click this green button that will rotate the key for them. If they click on the button a second time, it will copy the new key to the clipboard. From there, they can paste it to a text file and use it later on, which we will be able to see later on during this webinar. To install dsCONNECT, as I said, you need to have SQL Express installed first, and you need the ODBC driver 18. Once you've got that set up, then click right on the dsCONNECT installer exe file and select Run as Administrator. That's so the configuration process can write files for the configuration and the environment settings. Then it's just a matter of working through the installer screens. About the only thing you need to do is click on Create a Desktop Shortcut. Everything else, you should just take the defaults, click the install, you get an installation progress button, and then when installation is completed, you can launch dsCONNECT and just click the Finish button. I will point out this first tip that it is recommended the first time you run dsCONNECT, you run as the administrator. Once again, part of the first time run of dsCONNECT is it will take you through connecting to the SQL Express database, and it will take you through and request your MXAPI credentials, the URL and the API key. When you first start dsCONNECT, you see this splash screen pop up for a little bit. That is just telling you that the service manager for that dsCONNECT requires to run is up and running. On your first time run, you will see this screen where it's saying that the database connection couldn't be established. Please configure your database connection settings. Click OK. It'll enter in your server instance. In this case, I've got SQL Express on my local laptop, so it's localhost/SQL Express. If you put it on a server, it would be a different name. Your IT would have to provide you with that. Then the database name is the name of the database you want to create on your SQL Express. I suggest dsCONNECT, that way it's plain and simple. I like to tick the use Windows authentication and trust server certificate because that just makes connecting into the database that much smoother and easier. Once you've done those, once you added those details, you hit the test connection button. In the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see this green message pop up. Database created and connection successful. That's good. Everything's good. Just click OK. Then you'll be told that the database connection has been configured successfully. Now it'll prompt you for your MXAPI credentials. Click on the OK button. Enter the MDS API URL. This will be different for each instance, particularly if you're a cloud admin or an on-prem client. And in here is where you show your API key, or you enter your API key. Once you've done that, you can click on the test API connection. If you don't know what your URL is, simply raise a ticket through the maxgeo support portal, and our help desk personnel would be more than happy just to post you back what the link will be. Don't connect to this one. This is our demo database. It won't work for anybody except for myself. And as I said, everyone will have a different URL for this address. Once you click the test API connection, once again, the bottom left, you get this green success message. After that, you need to click on the Setup Initialized Database. What this is doing is going through and actually creating the database and doing a test and finding out the MDS version. So this is connecting into the MDS. It'll pull back 500 or 466 or whatever MDS version you have and give you this success message. Once that's happened, then dsCONNECT is installed and it's ready for use. Just while we're on the bottom of this installation guide, it's worth pointing out that down the bottom here, we do have a few troubleshooting notes on there. And that leads me in nicely to the next part of what I was going to demonstrate to you, which is if we open services, before we really get into dsCONNECT, one final check we can do is to make sure that we have this service, dsCONNECT Data Extraction Scheduler, that it is installed. The fact that it is not running is perfectly fine. The dsCONNECT Data Extraction Scheduler service will start when it is required to be used. And we'll come to that later on in the demonstration of how you use dsCONNECT. While we're in here, it's probably worthwhile just also scrolling down to the SQL Server section and just make sure that the SQL Server Express service is installed and running. Right, from there, what we need to do, and then the last part I wanted to show while I was on this installation guide is that at the very, very bottom down here, you've got this download link where you can click on to download the installer. Once you've done the installation and you've got dsCONNECT installed, you'll have an icon on your desktop that will look exactly like this. As I pointed out earlier, it is preferred, particularly on the first time you run dsCONNECT, to run as administrator. So you can click right and select run as administrator. What I have done is I've gone into the shortcut properties. I went onto compatibility and I checked this box, run this program as administrator. So every time I run it, it'll run as admin. And the reason that you need to run it as admin is dsCONNECT has a environment configuration file that it stores, and it updates every time you change your settings. And that file is located on your C drive under your program files in the dsCONNECT folder that's created during the installation process. And some people may not have right access into that file location. Now, when you open dsCONNECT for the first time, you'll see a screen that looks like this. It's divided up into 3 tabs: configuration, settings, and logs. At the bottom of the screen, we have a status window here that's just telling you what's been going on and whether there was any problems or whether everything was good. On installation, dsCONNECT comes with 3 standard layouts. Now, a layout is not to be confused with a GIS layout. A layout is simply analogous to a project or an application type. So it comes with ArcGIS, which has 5 files, tables. It comes with ioGAS, which has 5 tables. And it comes with Leapfrog, which has 14 tables. You can edit the existing layout, just change its name, change its description. You can delete a layout. If you click delete, that will go, and that will delete all of these tables, and it will also delete the tables out of SQL Express in the back end. The question mark here will just show you the MDS version and tells you how many layouts you've got and how many tables you've got in all. And if you wanted to add a new layout, you'll click this plus button here. You then give it a name, you give it a description, we get told that the layout has been created, and here's the layout here, and it selects it by default, but we have no tables. We click on the Add Table button. We'll just expand this out a little bit more. We give it a name. A preference is to give the table names a prefix of the layout with an underscore. And the reason for that will become clear once we go into SQL Express and I show you what that looks like. Then you just need to paste in a SQL select. You can see I've got one. Here's one I prepared earlier. And that SQL select statement can be quite complex, but this one is just fairly simple. Click OK. We get told the table has been created successfully, and here is our table, and here is our SQL query. We can update and edit the query, adding fields, deleting fields, and then you just hit Save Query button, and the new edited query is saved. Now we'll come to, there are 3 options for exporting data. Actually, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Before I get to export data, we've just created this new table with this based on this SQL select statement. How do we populate data into that table? We select the table that we want to work with, and then down the bottom here, we've got this button that says Update Selected Table. If we click on that and we watch in the status window, down here, it's told us that we've just had 1,114 records, and we get a pop-up success message box as well. If we were to click on this second button here, update selected layout, it will update all tables in the selected layout. So in this instance, we'd update all 5 of these tables. If I clicked on update all tables, it will update all tables in every single layout. Now, you can update the tables manually just by clicking on any one of these 3 buttons at any time, or you can set the schedule. We have 4 schedule frequencies: minutes, hours, daily, and weekly. I strongly advise do not use minutes because some of the updates can take a long time depending on the number of records and the number of tables that you have involved. So in this case, we'll select daily. You've got a spinner here. It's gone up to 5. So in this case, it would update automatically every 5 days. I think probably something that would probably be usable would be every single day. Click the schedule enabled checkbox. We get this pop-up saying, do we want to enable automatic scheduling? Click yes. And if we watch down in the status bar here, automatic scheduling enabled, the service will extract all tables every 1 day. To turn the automatic refresh off, it's a simple matter of just checking the or unchecking the scheduled checkbox. Now, ticking the scheduled checkbox and turning on the automatic scheduling, when we saw the dsCONNECT service running earlier, it will start that service running and put it into a state of running when you do that. Exporting data. We have 3 options for exporting data in dsCONNECT. You can export in Excel, CSV, or Access. I won't actually do an export during this demo because it chews up a little bit of time, as you can appreciate. It depends how many tables you've got, how many records are in each table. But basically, an Excel export looks like this, where you get an instructions tab. And then for each table that exists in dsCONNECT, you'll get a new tab. And you see here, here's the demo DHCOL that we created earlier on. With the CSV export, you'll get a CSV file for every single table that is in dsCONNECT. In the Access export, you'll get a single Access database with a table for every table in SQL Express. Now, in SQL Express, what does that look like? Basically, in SQL Express, we've got our dsCONNECT database that was created during the installation and the configuration. Underneath that, we have tables for every single pre-configured layout and table. And this is why I suggest that you name the tables with the layout name and an underscore and then the table name, because when you come into SQL Express, it just makes it so much tidier to find where all the like tables are. Now, you'll notice that we can't see the demo DHCOL. That's because it didn't exist when I first opened this up. It's only just been created during this demonstration. So if I click refresh and go in here, now we see we have our demo DHCOL table. If I open that up, I'm only pulling back the top 1,000 records, so it won't say 1,114, but you get the idea that this table has actually been created in SQL Express and it has actually been populated with data. Now that's all. Now I should explore through the settings tabs first of all. The settings tab has a couple of important pieces of information on it. Namely, once you've gone through your configuration and you've set up your layout, so you've created all of your custom tables, or you've customized these existing templates, customized the tables, and the way you can get the to the SQL is just do a right click on the table, view query, and the query pops up there. This window is always live for editing. If you make changes, just click Save Query, like I said earlier. Once you've got all of this set up for one user, if you come into Settings, then you can click on this Export Configuration. What that will do, it'll ask you for a file name and a location. In this case, it's already there. It tells me I've exported the configuration. And what that has done is that has created this file, test.json. If we have a look at it, you can see that it just has the definition and the SQL query for every single table within dsCONNECT. So the suggestion that I'm making is one person would be responsible for setting up the dsCONNECT with all the layers and all of the tables within the layers. Then they can export the configuration file and then share it around with colleagues. And they can just click on Import Configurations, select where they've saved that JSON file. If you click Yes, it will merge the new configurations with the existing. If you choose No, it will replace. So if you want to have everybody on the same page with the same configuration, it'd be as easy as that. Export your configuration to a JSON file, share it around, every user imports it themselves. Everybody in the team has exactly the same structure. The other button in here that's worthwhile exploring is the View Edit Environment Configuration. And you notice that there are two tabs here, the API settings and the database settings. These have all been set up with the first time run of dsCONNECT when it went through the process of asking us for this information. If you had a new database, if the SQL Express moved to a different server, this is where you would come in to update the details. I like to leave use Windows authentication ticked. That way you don't have to worry about creating SQL Server users. We have these buttons here, Test API Connection and Test Database Connection. So we're in our database settings, so we'll test our database connection and it's been successful. Everything's good. On the API settings tab, once again, we have the API URL and we have our API key. And this checkbox shows the key. It's this horrible looking string of alphanumerics. What that actually breaks down is that is an encrypted string that contains the DataShed user account and the DataShed MDS to connect to. So that API key is a personal piece of information that really should not be shared. Let's click cancel on that. And if we look at the logs tab, basically the logs tab just shows you everything that dsCONNECT has been doing with a date, timestamp, and the newest entry at the bottom of the list. And in a nutshell, that is what dsCONNECT does. Now, how do we use that? What's the point? Well, this is the point. If we go into ODBC data sources, and I recommend people use system DNS, that way anyone who uses the workstation will have access to these connections. You can see I've set up an ODBC connection for 32-bit and for 64-bit. The 32-bit is using the SQL Server driver and the 64-bit is using the ODBC driver 17. You can add as many as you want in just by clicking add and choosing whichever driver you want to use. Whichever driver you choose to use is dictated by the application that you're going to be connecting to the dsCONNECT database. In my case, I've set it up for ODBC 17 because that is what QGIS requires. Other applications may use 18, may use 16. Now, the way we can set that up is if I just click on this 64-bit, go into configure, basically you give it a name. This is the important bit of information. Give it the SQL Express instance, and then you just step through. Make sure integrated Windows authentication is ticked. The only other thing you need to change is it will have the default database set to master. Tick the checkbox, change the default data source, and select the dsCONNECT database. All the rest of it is basically just going through and taking the defaults. Then we get to this screen where we cross our fingers and toes, hope for the best, click test data source, and voila, test completed successfully. That means our ODBC connection is now set up and ready to be used by any application that can connect to it. So how would that look? Well, let's just have a quick go into QGIS. I know QGIS is probably a poor example of an application to choose because we already have the QGIS API plugin that we can use to do this, but we can also use dsCONNECT, and there are some benefits to using dsCONNECT over the plugin. Now, I'm not a QGIS expert, but this is how I would do this. I would go into layer, say add layer, and add vector layer. By default, it will choose the source type of file. In this case, we would choose database, and the type is ODBC. I've already got a dsCONNECT connection set up. If I click edit, you can see it's pointing at our local SQL Express instance. It's using our dsCONNECT 64 ODBC connection. And once again, cross our fingers and toes, wait a few seconds because this one takes a little bit longer to come through, and connection was successful. So now that we've got that, all we've got to do is click on the add button. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, no, that's correct. We don't need to enter a password because we're coming in with Windows authentication to SQL Server. Just wait a few seconds and we'll get this select items to add box that comes up. What that's currently doing is QGIS through the ODBC connection is trolling through the dsCONNECT database, giving a list of all tables. At the moment, the description for all is set to scanning. The text is grey and italic. That means we cannot do anything just yet. Once it's finished scanning, then we can select a table or a group of tables to bring in as layers into QGIS. In this case, I'm going to select the demo DH coal table that we created earlier, and I'll click on the add layers. Over here, while we're waiting for that to happen, what that's doing is using QGIS is going through the ODBC connection into the SQL Express database, and it's brought in this layer. The reason we can't see any points displayed on the screen is that this layer has not been attributed yet. So if we open the processing toolbox and we go into vector creation and we click on create points from layer, because this layer has been selected, it's already up here. From there, it's a simple matter of choosing our X, Y, Z fields. Click run. And we'll get a new layer that will approach up here. It's chosen very bad colors. That's better. And you can see there they are our 1,114 collars that we've imported into the dsCONNECT database in the SQL Express database using dsCONNECT. this point, that's pretty much everything that I had planned to demonstrate today. So I know we're at the bottom of the hour, but if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to add them into the chat. Don't actually see any in there at this stage. One obvious question that I can think of is pricing. dsCONNECT itself does not come with a cost. However, to use dsCONNECT, the requirements are that you have an MXAPI license. Currently, the MXAPI license is an annual subscription of $2,000 per license, and that comes with a one-off configuration and setup fee of $700. What I would be suggesting would be, depending on the size of the organization, sure, every user could have their own MXAPI license and could have their own SQL Express dsCONNECT database on their own laptops. That will work fine. What I would suggest is you put SQL Express onto a shared server. That way you'd only need the one API license. That can refresh the SQL Express database. And if you create your ODBC connections and setups correctly, everybody can share them and you can all draw data out of the one data repository. Still don't see any other questions in here. Have you seen any come in, Amanda? No hands ups? Okay, everybody. So if there's no questions, I'll take that I've explained things well, or I've made you all nod off. But we'll draw it to a close there, and thank you very much for joining. I hope you got something out of this, and please feel free to follow through with any questions with emails or through our support ticket. Thank you for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.